It's TIE Fighter Renegades, a Star Wars podcast.
The Golden Stallion, the Man of Tomorrow, Savzu, the Rated R Radio Star, all the names. But really the name that matters here is TIE Fighter Renegades, because it is time to talk about Star Wars on Zomia ONE. And you know the Man of Tomorrow doesn't do that alone. Oh, no. He gets joined by his brother, the man, Robin Freebeard. Rob, welcome to TIE Fighter Renegades. Yeah, it does roll off the tongue nicely.
A Star Wars podcast.
A Star Wars podcast. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great goddamn name. And I got an email from somebody like, I think the name's a little too long. I'm like, are you kidding me? No, you got to have TIE Fighter in the name, because that's what made Star Wars great in the first place. Well, the game anyway. So, yeah, man, we got a lot to talk about this month. This will be technically for July. Plenty of reviews really to do because we have a couple books to get into. One of them, that being a Thrawn book, which has become one of the highlights over the past 3 years. Every year we've been getting a Thrawn book, and we'll be talking about that. We got some other news that came out of SDCC, out of Comic-Con. And, well, I think we actually have a great question of the month that just kind of struck me. And it struck me, and then it struck Rob, and Rob said, fuck this. No. We'll see how that goes when we get to it. But we're going to have a good time. So anyway, Rob, why don't we go ahead and start to open up this show? Actually, you know what? This month, now sometimes I do this at the end, sometimes I do this at the beginning. I want to do it at the beginning. I mean, how are you feeling about Star Wars right now? Let's set the stage for what we're going to talk about here over the next hour or so. But I mean, how are you feeling about Star Wars right now?
I got to be honest with you, it hasn't been a great month for Star Wars. We're going to get into that, with some of our reviews, but. Yeah, I could use a pick-me-up on Star Wars. We could use some good news.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some, and some of it's going to come through what we're going to talk about at the beginning, but I'm kind of with you. Like, there's a part of me that is like feeling a real Star Wars fervor. You have episode 9 coming up, even though I don't pay any attention to the episode 9 news coming out. I just don't care. Like, when the movie drops, that's when we'll know whatever the fuck we're going to know.
Right. I mean, I scroll through so much of my news feed just because it's like Star Wars rumor news. And like, it's like, I don't care.
Yeah. It's funny. We were talking about that off air. I mean, it's crazy because it's not just like we've complained, and you have properly complained and brought out like, Screen Rant and a bunch of these, and CBR.com and a bunch of these other bullshit sites. Now it's like Variety and Esquire and all these people are getting in on this game about these rumors when, come on, nobody fucking knows. And you can't know because there was no plan. There's no real plan for this. And fuck, if it's getting, like we talked about on the last episode of TIE Fighter Renegades, if the movie's getting edited on set, how can you guess anything? Because they could make the shit up as they go along. I mean, the editing room scripts change, and they change hard. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's a fool's errand to be reading into a lot of that stuff. But
it's all about capturing eyeballs and selling ads. So I mean, obviously, what these places like Screen Rant are doing is working, and now the major publications are picking up on it, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, and admittedly, like there's parts of me that are really, you never rub another man's rhubarb, and it rubs my rhbarb the wrong way.
Right.
Because like, in 1994, in fact, we'll kind of mention this earlier, but like in 1992, 94, anywhere in the early 90s, like none of these companies would have touched anything going on with Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
And for them, go ahead.
In fact, we're going to talk about the Star Wars show later, but they recently did an interview with Timothy Zahn, and
which is exactly what I was thinking about. Yeah,
right. And she asked, she was asking about, if he ever thought Thrawn was going to become as big as he was, and he said, in '91 we had no idea if there were even any Star Wars fans out there.
Precisely,
and that's the truth.
Yeah, that was the dark times, which at some point we're going to do something special about that whole time frame, because you and I both survived that era, and I do say survived as Star Wars fans. But yeah, that's a great.
I would say we even thrived during some of those times.
I would agree. Yeah. Because we ended up getting, part of this show's namesake. We got TIE Fighter in '93. Right. I mean, that was fucking that's as good as it gets. But yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking of, was Timothy Zahn saying that then. And that's the thing, is that none of these people, they're not, well, anyway, I don't want to get into a side conversation on this, but like, you know that they're not fans, and they're not talking about it because they're fans. They're talking about it because, like you said, it's the eyeballs, it's getting the ad impressions and all that horseshit. So anyway, I mean, myself, I could use some really good shit. And November is a little far away to get Mandalorian, start getting in, more Clone Wars episodes and so on. And then December for episode 9, which I think is a real roll of the dice. But regardless, we'll move on and we'll talk about what is going on in Star Wars. And something that TIE Fighter Renegades very much prides itself on is that, unlike other Star Wars podcasts, we actually do talk about the comic books, which are really the most consistent source of Star Wars canon of any kind going out. So, and as far as the comic books go, we got a few we're going to end up talking about here. Particularly, I think what we're going to shine a light on are the Age of Resistance comics, which I think have been one of the more interesting things that had been announced earlier in the year. Because, this is a time frame and characters within Star Wars that we still, even after 2 movies and, a show, Resistance and so on, and even with the Poe Dameron comic, we still don't know a whole ton about a lot of these characters. So I think they're a welcome addition. Of course, we haven't gotten the Snoke comic yet, which I think a lot of people are really looking forward to see what the hell we're even going to find out in that. And boy, they better reveal something in that comic, because if it's just him like blathering on about his machinations and schemes, that's going to be an incredibly boring comic.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath on that one, because I still feel the sting of the DJ comic.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, let's talk about the 3 Age of Resistance comics that we've gotten so far throughout July. We have Phasma, Finn, and then there was the Age of Resistance special, which had 3 stories in it, one with BB-8, one with Holdo in it, and then the other one, what was the other one?
This was Maz and Han Solo.
Maz and Han Solo, yeah. So, well, let's open up talking about the special. I thought this is a pretty good little trilogy of stories. Not as strong as, because I'll tell you that the Age of Rebellion special comic had a trilogy of stories, very unique. It had, there was the opening story with IG-88, which I thought was really cool to get some exposition on that character, because we know he's going to be part of the Mandalorian, which is very exciting.
Right.
And then, I mean, because you just find out how badass of a character he is. And I mean, there's so much interesting stuff with that. But then the Yoda comic led right into when Luke basically crashes on Empire Strikes Back. And I thought that was really impressive to learn a lot about what's going on for Yoda and how he's still learning even after 900 years. And the Porkins and Biggs story at the end of that, I thought was very, very unique for like Porkins to be having basically an existential crisis, which I thought was really, I mean, it was just, I don't know, it was comedic, but then at the same time, it was interesting,
Yeah.
And I liked that a lot. I thought that was a very, very strong comic book.
Was it just me, or did that remind you of the Tag and Bink comics from back in the day?
Totally. Yes, totally. Right down to the artistry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where there's like a bit of comedy, but then also it's like it's almost a commentary on like all these sides at war, and very well done. Porkins is, I forget the name of the actor, but that actor, most people don't realize that guy, I mean, he dies in A New Hope in record time. But that actor, he was in the '89 Batman. He plays the Eckhart, the cop,
right.
the cop in that. I mean, he's been around. That guy's like a serious actor. Yeah, exactly. Oh man. So people forget about that's such a. I mean, really, an actor that has been in some major blockbusters was there. But anyway, that was a nice touch to get some of Porkins there too. But now the Age of Resistance special, I thought it was good. Again, not as strong as the Age of Rebellion one or as the Age of Republic special, but it was good. I mean, what did you think of the Age of Resistance special comic?
I very much felt like the story with Holdo was designed to create some sort of connective tissue between what we got in episode 8 and what they did in the Princess Leia novel. Because like between those, if like we've mentioned this when we did our review of that before, was that it seemed like a totally different character.
Yes.
And that in fact, I can't remember the actress that plays her. She wasn't even aware that a book had been written about the character, let alone have read it.
Yeah, Laura Dern, which that that was really depressing, that interview.
Right. You're right. And so to have this little story that kind of like makes sense and brings those two characters, well, one character, you know, two seemingly different characters into one character, you know, it makes sense. But here again, it is kind of like, you know, Disney's calling card, and that, you know, they do this sort of extraneous stuff in order to tidy things up in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. And I mean, not that Disney's the only one to do that, but certainly it's common practice, and they've, well, at least they're doing an okay job with some of it, of these like interstitial moments. They're spending a lot of time on that, now that I think about it, you know, in between like either a book and a movie or something, all that connective tissue. They're really, I mean, I feel like this, we don't have to spend much time on this subject, but I really feel like with a lot of this stuff that they are like, because a lot of what we're going to review in this episode, especially when we get to the Thrawn novel, there is so much lead up material now to the creation of the first Death Star. You know, I mean, to where it's actually more commonly called Stardust than it is the Death Star, I think, overall in the canon. I really feel like Disney is playing, and we know they are, but like that they're really playing a super long game to where 50 years from now, people will be able to experience a lot of Star Wars before they ever watch A New Hope. And then the Death Star is going to be absolutely fucking terrifying, you know, and part of that is because I think Disney is spending so much time in this interstitial lead up material to you know, different parts of the main movies, which is interesting. So yeah, I thought the Holdo Holdo story was, I mean, it was, you know, it's there.
Yeah.
How about the BB-8 story? I mean,
you know, I figured you'd have something to say about that, because we're getting more of this sort of like droid rebellion sort of stuff that, you know, Disney has been going on and on about for quite a while.
Yeah, you do get the feelings of that. I mean, it was pretty standard fare. It wasn't bad, wasn't great. But yeah, you are getting more of that. Wow, you know, like these droids are feeling a bit oppressed, or, you know, a lack of autonomy, ironically. But yeah, it was, you know, again, a good little story. And I mean, BB-8 is the one where actually is the first character that I can think of where you're getting this idea that like droids themselves fall in love with each other. Because like BB-8 had a girlfriend in the Poe Dameron comic. Right. So yeah, I'm curious to see where this is going to go, but I think it's definitely another stone in that fortress of there's going to be some kind of massive droid rebellion at some point. Then we had the story that I think was probably the best out of this was the Maz story, and but where she's actually going around with Han Solo and Chewie, and it's nice to, this is again more of that connective tissue where, you know, Maz clearly knows Han Solo and Chewbacca in The Force Awakens. Well, how does she know them? And you're getting hints at what that relationship was like. So I thought that was, and it was fun. Like it worked, you know. I mean, the character of Maz hasn't been the most exciting thing for me, but I thought that this comic put it together nicely.
Yeah, I agree that this was probably the strongest out of the three short stories in the comic book. Yeah, I especially loved the moment where you know, they're getting into a firefight, and you know, Maz had just been hitting on Chewie, and Han Solo goes, "What is it with you two?" And Chewie says something, and he goes, "Whoa, too much information, pal."
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I mean, I dig that, you know, and that's great. It's good to have a little sexy, you know, in Star Wars as well, because we really don't get enough of that. We're getting more of it than we ever did before. In a few different things, but yeah. Anyway, that was kind of fun. So yeah, it was a good comic, pretty standard fare. Now let's switch to the one shots for the Age of Resistance, and we could start off with the Captain Phasma comic. I mean, Rob, what did you did you walk away from this suddenly falling in love with the character of Captain Phasma, or how'd this go?
No, it's just another chrome-plated turd.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like everything to do with this character is just it's shit.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they have to concentrate, like Disney feels like they have to concentrate really hard on the survival aspects of this character. So that way they can explain why they keep using her, why they keep bringing her back.
Yeah, it's just so odd though, because I mean, just like how I mean, you keep getting story after story where like other people in the First Order are realizing that Phasma's only is pretty much just a mercenary and only in it for herself.
Right.
Like, how many people has she killed at this point now within the First Order?
Yeah. And how does Snoke not know? How does Kylo Ren not know?
Right. And that's what I'm thinking is just, like how does somebody like this survive in an organization like the First Order for as long as she has?
Right. I mean, certainly, like Darth Vader had offed plenty of Imperial officers in his day, but then he always kind of, it was based upon failure as to where she's doing it just to like cover her ass, and survive, which is just, I agree with you. It's an odd thing. Go ahead.
I mean, the only thing that makes sense, and which I'm willing to buy into a certain degree, is that the entire First Order is completely and unforgivably incompetent.
Right. Yeah. Which I don't know. They got to come up with something.
Which doesn't make for a very impressive villain. No,
I agree. And Episode 9's really got to pick up the pace on that and give us something, because otherwise, you're totally right. It doesn't where Thrawn would never allow an organization like this to exist. I don't think Admiral Sloane would allow an organization like that to exist. And where are these people? How did this thing even come to be? It's so strange.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, the messaging that we keep getting and like one of the big things in one of the books we're going to talk about is that the whole, what was the name of that operation that the Emperor executed after Cinder? Operation Cinder. The entire point of it was to basically separate the wheat from the chaff, and so that only the strongest would survive in whatever came after the Empire. Yeah. And if the First Order is what came out of that, then wow, big failure.
Yeah. Operation Cinder failed on many accounts at that point. Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. I agree. So the Phasma comic, it wasn't I didn't think it was horrible. Not as it didn't feel as much a waste of time as that Delilah Dawson book, Phasma.
Yeah.
That was just bad. But it was interesting that you got a lot more of her with her helmet off. Obviously, she just looks like Gwendolyn Christie, but I thought that was kind of slick, to see her a bit more. She has the shortcut blonde hair and all this. But otherwise, it just, I don't know. It didn't do anything for me.
No.
The Finn comic book. This one, it's funny because the Finn the character, I get it that he's kind of become comic relief, especially after, he was in The Force Awakens, certainly more so in The Last Jedi. But was it before The Awakening? There was that it was like a junior novel that had, that had a few stories. Finn was a badass in that. When he was with the First Order, somewhere something changed, because in that, he's actually the best at, the various fighting tactics and everything in that book. And he even has a competitor in it who ends up being who the fans have titled traitor, that being the stormtrooper, the first order stormtrooper that calls him a traitor. Yeah, right. Yeah. They're competing, and Finn is better, and so, but he just gets treated like total, comedic or comic relief in this comic, and so it wasn't bad. It was a fairly enjoyable comic, but it just, I don't know. I don't need that. That's not something that I'm looking for. But it wasn't bad either. So it fits with what we have for Finn now.
I think the comic ended well.
Yes.
I think it was poignant for the other character. What was her name? Marilu.
Yeah, the garbage.
She was saying, like a stormtrooper with the conscience. It's not really a great mix.
Yeah. It does lead into the Finn that we know now. It just, I don't know that. I don't think anybody, maybe just nobody cares about that before the Awakening stories.
And which, and I'm reading this and we come with this new character. I'm like, oh man, I hope she wasn't on Starkiller when the place blew up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's and we do get more Starkiller based on that.
And it is kind of like, like the point of the book is that, Finn's trying to save this like species of like sort of bat-like creature,
right?
That he finds, and it's kind of cool that he was like something from that planet survived.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I mean, that's kind of interesting too. I mean, to get more of Starkiller base, I thought was kind of cool, just to make it a little more alive and maybe differentiated it. For differentiated more from the Death Star,
right?
And like the idea, well, wait, where did they even get this planet? And well, now we find out that there was some life on it and everything. I thought that was cool. I mean, it added in something to the First Order that wasn't complete incompetency, thankfully, in comparison to what like Phasma seemed to have done, among other things. So that that works. That part of it really worked. So, anything else to say on the Age of Resistance comics?
No, I think we've covered all three of them, right?
Yeah.
What do we have coming up next? I think it's Hux and Poe Dameron.
Yeah, I think so. And well, eventually we'll get Snoke, and I think there's supposed to be a Kylo one too.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're probably going to leave those for the last.
Yeah, because that's going to lead into probably some pretty important info, or hopefully. I doubt. Actually, I should doubt it. I don't know. I would hope
like
that.
I'm not completely discounting the possibility, but like I said, I'm not exactly holding my breath at this point. It's so hit and miss with Marvel on these Star Wars comics.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, by the way, Marvel 1000 is going to have some kind of like single page comic in it. Marvel issue 1000. That's supposed to be coming out soon, so we'll keep an eye out for that.
I heard that was going to be like a Darth Vader.
Yeah, I think it's a Darth Vader story. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. I will say though, if people want to read, or I'm feeling this is one of the areas where I'm feeling a little hopeful, and that is some of the more recent issues of Dr. Aphra. Ever since they brought on a new creative team, as well as the ongoing comic for Star Wars have also brought on a new creative team, and so far I have liked what I've seen. But we'll go into a deeper dive on those as these stories progress further. But things that we want, two main things that we want, let's just say they've been starting to get resolved. One is, well, spoiler alert, we have more Tolvin. We got Tolvin back. And then with the Star Wars ongoing, we finally have real art again. And it's not just colorations over film cells from the original trilogy, which is kind of nice.
Right.
So I'm hopeful. Cautiously hopeful about those two comic books, because those are our two main running comics outside of this Age of series, which has largely been great. So anyway, if people want to check those out, they can do so. And we'll get into reviewing the TIE Fighter comic as well as the Galaxy's Edge comic and all that. We'll get into those as those stories wrap up, which will probably be next month. All right, well, let's move on from the comics then. Why don't we go ahead and get into it? Well, while we're reviewing shit, let's start reviewing. So a comic or a book, did this come out in April? When did Alphabet Squadron come out? I think that came
out last month, didn't it?
Maybe it was June. I feel like it's been out there for a while, but maybe it was June.
I could be wrong. I just finished it recently.
No, same here. But Alphabet Squadron by Alexander Freed, who Alexander Freed has been, well, this is like his third or fourth Star Wars novel now. His novels have been largely like really military-centric fare, and a lot of it has been very ground-based, but not always. He wrote the Inferno Squadron novel, if I'm not mistaken, which that was a very solid novel, probably the best one he's done so far.
Right, definitely better than the game that followed it.
Oh, damn right. Yeah, absolutely. So Inferno Squadron, that was a great novel that he did. He also did the novelization for Rogue One, which was good. I mean, it was as good as you could get with a movie novelization, I think.
Right.
And then he also did the prequel novel for Battlefront, the first Battlefront game.
Yeah, Twilight Company.
Yeah, Twilight Company. That's it. Yeah, and that was good. I mean, just simple military fare, had female stormtroopers in it, got people in a little bit of a tizzy, but whatever. The guy can write military, no doubt about that.
Right.
And he's good at it. And I've seen interviews with, he's been interviewed on the Star Wars show and so on, and seems to really know his shit. But Alphabet Squadron, so this is taking place post Return of the Jedi. This is just as, because there's plenty of times where characters are forgetting that they're supposed to call themselves New Republic Intelligence instead of Rebellion Intelligence or Alliance Intelligence. And so it's pretty much smack right after that. And this is a long book. Very long book. Its main character, that being Erica Quell, she is an ex-Imperial who's kind of being rehabilitated, more or less. But you have very much a Dirty Dozen-esque book here, in my opinion, where you have 5 operatives, you have 5 ships. It's called Alphabet Squadron because there's an A-wing, a B-wing, a Y-wing, an X-wing, and a U-wing. So everybody's flying one of those, and so that's kind of, and it's this special mission and everything all about that. And they have these kind of the heavies that they're going after are Shadow Squadron, or the 204th. Was it the 204th? Is that what it's? I think that's what they were called.
I thought it was called Shadow Wing. Yeah.
Shadow Wing. Yeah, Shadow Wing.
Yeah,
it's the 204th.
Yeah, 204th. Yeah.
Yeah. So they, which have been the highlight of the recent TIE Fighter comic from Marvel, which we're just about to get the last issue of that. It'll be issue 5 when that drops. The book, I'll start it off here. It's good, I don't want to say it's good. It is, for what it is, being this military Star Wars fare, fine, and I feel like if it had we get Hera in it, Hera Syndulla's in it, which is nice. But she, as you said earlier, Rob, when we were off air, she couldn't even save this story. I feel like it read like an X-Wing novel, like a classic Michael Stackpole X-Wing novel, but the characters and everything, they just, I don't know, the story wasn't compelling enough. There wasn't the excitement of having Wedge Antilles, in an X-Wing again or anything like that. And I think even if they could have just put Wedge in it or something to lift it up.
Yeah.
It was a very dark story. And I know that Alexander Freed, the author, he kind of wanted it to be that way. But when it's such a long book and some of the, some of the stuff that the B-Wing did in this and everything, that was kind of cool. But yeah, I just, this is going to be an entire trilogy. This isn't just one book. They're planning on an entire trilogy with this. And I'm just like, I don't want to read anymore. This is depressing, almost boring.
Right. Yeah. It is a lot of kind of exposition about characters really just kind of like screwing up and feeling sorry for themselves and, just being in bad situations. And, there's a whole lot of, and granted, these are all, very salient things to bring up in any military.
Sure.
Because there's a huge theme in this book about survivor's guilt.
Yes, right. Good point.
And but here again, just like you said, this is a long book, and it's quite of a slog to get through all of it. And overall, it doesn't leave you with a very good feeling in the end. In fact, there's some characters that I outright dislike, and I think you're supposed to, they're written as characters you're supposed to dislike, and you keep on expecting some sort of moment where they're going to finally get their comeuppance, and it never happens.
Right. Yeah. Particularly the leader, not the main character, but
Aiden.
Aiden. Yeah. What an asshole.
Right.
and just, I know.
And you're thinking, how does somebody that even get involved in the rebellion? His motives are just all fucked up. And when things start going south and lots of people start dying, this guy just he feels no regret over his contributions to these misdeeds, and he feels no regret, and he just I don't know, it's bizarre.
Yeah, definitely not like much of any other rebel leaders that we're used to, like a General Rykeen or something like that, where there's a certain expectation we have of rebel leaders, and I feel like they basically all went to the school of Dodana. And when I encounter a rebel leader that doesn't seem to have gone there, I don't like it. because it just doesn't seem to fit what they would allow for. I mean, because that's, especially since that's a message we've been getting over and over, particularly like in the ongoing comic for Star Wars, where, no, we're not like the Empire, we're rebels, we act a certain way, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then you get these people that just don't. The main character, Erica Quell, I mean, she's interesting as a new character like that can get. And I am all for having as many female Star Wars characters as we can fucking get. I mean, I am on board for that. But it's just, there's, and it's great. Again, it was great to have Hera, but there's just not enough here. I mean, I just walked away like, wow, I fucking wasted my time. That's how I felt. I mean, I know it's kind of strong to say, and Alexander Freed is a fine author. I'm not saying anything about that, but I just needed something more, and it wasn't there.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a slog to get through. I'm hesitant to recommend this book. I think it's, if I didn't know that it was going to be part of a trilogy, I would say you could go ahead and skip this one. Yeah. But if this is going to be part of a trilogy, I just got to hope that they pull it together in the next novel. And certainly Alexander Freed has the chops to do it. He's written great stuff for Star Wars before. So, I mean, let's hope they pull it together in the next book. But I like I said, I have a hard time really recommending this book.
Yeah, same. I mean, apparently there's going to be a lot around this. I mean, I don't know. They're planning some kind of big push because, again, you do have the comic series, the TIE Fighter. There's others.
Yeah. And well, that's the thing too. Is like it's such a huge lost opportunity with this too, because you and I were talking about this earlier, and that really, if they had tied this in with a new Star Wars video game, like in the vein of the X-Wing games or even Rogue Squadron or something like that, that would have gotten me so excited about this series. But as it is right now, like this book just kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth, and like I said, just a feeling of a squandered opportunity.
Yeah, it's funny too because especially like the Rogue Squadron series was really accessible to a lot of people, partly because it was so popular on the N64. With Nintendo in the 90s, and right now, I mean, the Nintendo Switch is so white hot. To not for EA or for Disney to not take advantage of a wildly popular Nintendo platform, and bring back a series that also did very well on the GameCube, like Rogue Squadron did with, with 2 and 3 on there. Total missed opportunity. And Alexander Freed, I mean, the bulk of the books he's written were tie-ins to video games. It's almost weird that it's not a video game. Maybe it's going to be, but I mean, to do that right, they should be working on it now, and they should be announcing it now. And that would have been way more exciting than fucking Fallen Order. Like, I agree with you. That's a great point to bring up. Go ahead.
I think it has probably a lot to do with EA because, like, does EA even really have any games on the Switch? I can't think of anything off the top of my head. It feels to me like they're just completely ignoring the console.
Yeah, there was a story that crossed my feed this morning about something that they don't care about. I don't know. It seemed like that they were blasé about the Switch, which is dumb on their part because somehow I don't think Origin is doing very well for them. So, like, what the hell are they thinking?
They're not doing well at all. I mean, I didn't their stock tank recently?
Well, if it didn't, it should have, because they are regularly voted the worst company in video gaming. I mean,
and with good reason. And with good reason.
Absolutely. So totally drop ball on both EA and Disney's part. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking of not trying to attach to this, because they could have, especially with TIE Fighter comic as well, you could add some real excitement here. And I mean, especially from guys like us, we would have been on.
As maybe on a hopeful note, I did hear a rumor that Disney is actually thinking about purchasing a video game studio. And some of the rumors was that they were thinking about buying Ubisoft, which I think would be a great fit for them. And that is a company that does release good games on the Switch.
Yes. Actually, that would be a huge winner. Wow, that's an interesting... I had not heard that, but I like that for a lot of reasons. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I like about that is Disney could probably do right by both, not only Assassin's Creed as a franchise, but also Heroes of Might and Magic, because I think Ubisoft owns that, and man, Disney could have a multimedia field day with that. The movies alone could be huge, or TV shows, even kid shit. Would be amazing.
Well, even like the new Watch Dogs games looks really awesome, and I'm like, they could make a great movie out of that too.
Yeah, or the Far Cry series. I mean, this stuff's begging for it. Oh, that'd be great news. I would love that. Even though I don't know of Ubisoft having any real experience with like flight sims of any kind.
Right.
But I'm sure they can hire the right people, I mean, and they got the processing power at their studios. That's really what matters, I think. So okay. That's a nice little turn there. I like that.
Again, like, it's just a rumor, so I mean, I don't take it as gospel truth. It's just as likely, or if not more likely, that it won't happen.
Yeah. But then buying a video game company in general, I think, would be a great idea. There's no reason. I mean, they own Marvel, like they have everything else in house. Fucking get it in house,
right?
And that way you're not dealing. I mean, I don't like conglomerates. I hate that whole concept. That's another conversation for a different show. But fuck it, why not? I mean, if you already own everything, like just go the rest of the way.
Well, it can't be, it can't be any worse than signing some bullshit exclusivity deal with the worst video gaming company in the industry.
Yeah, God.
I mean, that's only upwards from here.
Yeah, Iger's got to know. I mean, how is somebody not telling him? How is not Feige or somebody saying into his ear, we are losing billions of dollars a year because we're working with EA, and it blows my mind. Well, anyway, Alphabet Squadron. Anything else to add on to that one? I mean, it's again, it's going to be part of a trilogy, so I guess we got to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Largely, I would say it's a pass. Like, I don't think it's necessary reading. It does give you a little more extrapolation on Operation Cinder. Like, I feel like I understand Cinder a little better, and it makes a little more sense than what we've gotten previously. But that's all that I really walked away from as far as something being interesting. What do you got?
Yeah, I agree with that point. Because I mean, like, the whole Operation Cinder, that was like basically, for a long time it just seemed like a drop storyline from the shit show Battlefront 2 game.
Yes.
So I guess it's good that they finally picked that up and actually did something with that. And always like getting more of these stories that take place between Return of the Jedi and A Force Awakens. So I am glad that we are going to get more books that take place in that time period. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy about that. But here again, my overall assessment is much like yours. Is I give this book a pass.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give a tip to Alexander Freed. I mean, I doubt he's listening, but if he is, put Luke Skywalker or Wedge in the next book, and I think you could have a winner, but well, anyway, that's what I got. So let's move on to our next book. And this one, this is one that I personally, because Thrawn is, if not my favorite, one of my favorite characters in Star Wars of all time, regardless of universe. And I was very excited for this because I thought that the past two Thrawn books were, the first one was great. In fact, the first one's still my favorite Star Wars book of the new canon. The second one I thought was still very solid, had some genuine laugh out loud moments between Thrawn and Anakin Skywalker, actually, as well as some other things within it that I thought were really great. Thrawn Treason, this one, Rob, I'm going to put it to you because, I mean, I do admit that I might have a heavy bias on this one, so I'm going to put it to you first. I mean, what did you think of this thing? I mean, this was, I felt like it was very different from the first two. It is the closing out of a Thrawn trilogy. Timothy Zahn has said as much, even though he'd love to write more of the character. But I mean, what did you think of this?
Yeah, I have a feeling we're probably going to diverge on this because I wasn't too impressed by this book.
Okay.
Yeah, I to a certain degree, I kind of felt like he was dialing it in.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah,
that's a strong statement. Okay,
I have a point to back it up, and it was largely to deal with. So when you have a really truly brilliant genius character like Thrawn, obviously, you're a character like that. You're writing a character that is probably more intelligent than the author himself. And one way to sort of make up for that is to give that character a foil or stand him next to somebody who is as dumb as they come. To make the genius character look totally brilliant and really shine.
Right.
And I feel that's what they did with this book.
Oh, with the assistant director character?
Yeah, the Ronin character.
Yes.
Is that this guy is so obnoxiously incompetent and annoying that you set him next to Thrawn and he makes, Thrawn look like the smartest guy in the universe, which arguably he should be.
Yes.
But he shouldn't need a dum-dum like Ronin to make him seem that way.
Yeah. I can hear that. And actually, I mean, I will say this much. Like, probably one of my biggest critiques of this is Thrawn's reading of art. Like, now it's like treated like a superpower. It's not something more discreet that he does. Like, it's to the point that you have the villain character in this, and spoiler alerts, folks, but whatever. The villain character in this, like, prides himself on the fact that he's not into art at all, or at least it seems that way.
Right.
And so he thinks he actually has a shield from Thrawn, and that's such a weird, like, it's such a, I think that, like, reading people by art is a very legit and real thing, and I do it myself. Okay, I mean, and I've talked about this in other episodes on Zomia and other shows in Zomia ONE, where, like, I ask people what their favorite movie is, and I judge the fuck out of people by that.
Right.
And even if they say they don't like a movie, I judge them by that, if they don't like movies or something.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is that, throughout all three of these books, Zahn has done this thing where, we have the Thrawn's internal monologue.
Yes. Yeah.
And he does like these, he observes people and kind of,
these assessments.
Assessments, and tears them down and whatnot and figures them out. But we never get those monologues when he's doing that, his art thing. It would be really cool if we got the internal monologue when he was assessing a culture's art.
Yeah, what does he actually read out of it?
Right.
But
again, I feel like maybe Zahn doesn't feel like it'll fall apart if he tries to do it because he's not as smart as Thrawn.
Yeah. I mean, Thrawn, again, as we've said many times on this show, I mean, Thrawn is Sherlock Holmes in space. That's all he is. Now, Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes, was a brilliant guy. So, I guess maybe that's why it worked so well for Sherlock Holmes.
and that's the thing is I'm not gonna I don't get me wrong, folks. I think the world of Timothy Zahn, but he's no Sir Conan Arthur.
Yeah, no, right. And yeah, Timothy Zahn's a great author. I mean, even beyond Star Wars, the Cobra books, the Conquerors trilogy. I mean, they're tremendous books. I'm a huge fan. So I'm not knocking them either. But yeah. I mean, I can see it. Like, the things I didn't like that we didn't get more internal dialogue from Thrawn, or where, like, the first Thrawn book read like The Art of War, like he's like giving you lessons all the time.
Mm-hmm, right.
You get a couple in this, but that's it. It's not as
well. Now you're getting it through like the other characters. So he's basically, where he's setting up the characters to figure it out for themselves.
Yeah.
And he's basically he's conditioned his subordinates to think the way he does.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll say overall, it's certainly the weakest of the trilogy.
Yeah.
I still liked it because Thrawn is just still that great of a character. But I know I think your critiques are, I hear them, like, and I can feel them and I can see them.
And
go ahead.
My other critique with this is, I listened to the audiobook. Yeah. And I know I've beaten this drum before with I'm not a big fan of Mark Thompson.
Sure.
And some of the voices he does in this book are just hokey and ridiculous. We basically have a character who I've dubbed Grand Admiral Sean Connery.
Oh yeah.
Because that's who he sounds like.
It was totally I think they were totally mapping him after Sean Connery. I thought the same thing.
Yeah. Well, but I think that detracted rather than added to it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Right.
And then you had a Death Trooper that sounded like Christian Bale's Batman. So I dubbed him Death Trooper Batman.
Yeah.
You know, he had that really kind of gravelly voice.
And then there was the one that sounded like Bobo, which was weird.
Right. And some of the, and a bunch of the Chiss, like the Chiss Admiral, she sounds like a female Bond villain, what's her name? I can't remember shoot, I lost the name. Famous female. She was like a Russian, older Russian woman.
That was. I'm thinking instantly of Agent XXX or Xenia Onatop, but
no, she was an older Russian woman. She was like a Russian general or something. I had, but anyway, that's who she sounded like to me. And was it like some of the just like subordinate characters kind of sounded like horse Mongolians or something.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on the like the Chiss did not sound anywhere near as regal as Thrawn does.
No.
And that was a disappointment. Even though I do think I like Mark Thompson's work, but I hear it. Like I think his Emperor is great. Or his Palpatine, he does a great job with that. I think his Thrawn sounds, haunting. Properly, but I hear you, and but I bet he got orders to make that Admiral sound like Sean Connery, though.
Yeah, and the Chiss Admiral, I was trying to think, Colonel Rosa Klebb.
Oh yeah.
That's who she sounds like.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and I didn't like that voice either.
No,
because I think if she's the same Admiral, if she's the same Admiral that you see at the end of the Thrawn comic that Eli Vanto meets. When he goes into the Chiss Ascendancy, that voice doesn't match that hotness.
Yeah, in fact, they had an art piece that they did for a special version of this book that they released at the Comic-Con that showed her, and she doesn't look anything like the voice that he did for her.
Yeah. So I'll agree with you on those voices, that those were off. But I mean, this book did, and I think part of what made it acceptable to me was it did expand a fair amount, and certainly more so than most novels, the Star Wars galaxy. We got to learn a lot more about the Chiss Ascendancy and how they operate. I'm not saying I necessarily liked every way that went, but but we did learn a lot more about it. And we also learned more about the Grist, and they are probably going to, they're at some point they're going to do something with the Grist.
Yeah, I hope we get at least to see what they look like at some point.
Yeah,
because we're two books in now, and we have no idea what they look like other than Zahn's description.
Right.
Which is, I think they were kind of like somewhat reptilian looking or something.
Something along those lines.
Yeah,
but a very insidious race. I mean, they definitely. I think Zahn did a good job of setting up a villainous, shall we say, organization or empire, whatever.
Right.
That seems more evil than even the Empire itself.
Yeah. Well, they're like the puppet masters,
Right. Where they, just like one of them or a few of them can take over an entire, empire.
Right.
And that's properly terrifying. And if that ever makes it to the screen, is going to be an amazing story. I mean, I'm totally reminded of the Dominion versus Starfleet in Deep Space Nine,
right?
Where the shapeshifters, the founders, they just two of them are on Earth. Yeah, just two of them are on Earth. They basically they brought Starfleet to almost a civil war.
Yeah, good call.
It was an awesome storyline. So hopefully Star Wars will go that direction. I'm good for that. But yeah, I mean, again, I can recognize it's certainly the weakest of the Thrawn trilogy. It's not the way I would have closed the Thrawn trilogy out, if this is meant to be that. But no, I mean, I liked it a lot. I still got more Thrawn, and it's Thrawn better than Thrawn in Rebels, even though I still like Thrawn in Rebels.
Yeah.
So it's more of the character that I expect. And but I definitely have my critiques. Like I really think the whole reading of the art thing, they went a little too far with that, and in certain ways didn't go far enough, actually, like kind of like what you brought up about where they should be showing his mental processes with that. And also I was expecting a lot more Emperor in this book, a lot more Palpatine.
Right, because he's on the cover. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, I was very much expecting that. Or even if I got more Tarkin, I wanted to see Thrawn rubbing elbows with more of the higher ups. It was great for him to like who know who Krennic is and to, you know, pretty much make an ass of him. But yeah, there's things I wanted from this book that I didn't get, but I still walked away from it enjoying it. It's not going to be in my top 10 Star Wars books ever, but I liked it a lot. Anything?
Yeah, what did you think about Krennic being in the book?
I thought it was interesting. I mean, I know that the character of Ronan, like you said, he was a complete idiot, but it was nice to see that, because when you watch Rogue One, and even when you read Catalyst by James Luceno, Krennic does not seem like a guy who should have ever even touched the Death Star.
Right. And this kind of even just furthers that. Yeah,
it does. I mean, at least you get the idea that there are people that really worship this guy. Like, at least you got that. But it didn't add on anything to, you know, it didn't make him any more prestigious or anything like that.
Right. Well, that was the thing too. Is like, yeah, that was one of the things that immediately made me dislike the Ronin character. Is that he just so absolutely was, you know, worshipped Krennic and was utterly devoted, and like you're just kind of left like, why, you know? Yeah. Like the things that he sees in Krennic like are just total absolute delusion.
Yeah, I mean, and obligatory point. I think there was a version of Krennic that probably deserved to touch the Death Star. And we saw him in the trailer, the original trailer for Rogue One, where you know, he's saying to Vader, like, the power we're dealing with here is immeasurable. But that's not the Krennic we have. We have Krennic, the idiot. That Tarkin regularly and properly wipes the floor with. So, you know, one thing I did like though is, like, I mean, they really pushed the TIE Defender in this, which was nice. I mean, I enjoyed that as well. That's pretty much my favorite Star Wars ship.
That was really cool when Vanto got to take the wing of TIE Defenders on his Chiss ship and use them without Thrawn even being around. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I want to give credit again to that too. It was nice to have Vanto back because he wasn't in the second book. Right. And I actually really like that character for a few reasons. I mean, he's a great character in and of itself, but also I really do respect Disney for having a character with a Southern drawl who is brilliant, you know, and because, I mean, that, like, I'll give credit where credit, or I mean, I'll say this, like, I mean, often enough, you know, a lot of people treat people with a Southern accent like they're goofs, you know, like they're stupid or something, you know, when that's not true at all, or it doesn't have to be. And yeah, it's great to get that kind of, you know, that kind of inclusion and representation there. I just, you know, I'll give credit where it's due. And I thought that was
I'll agree with that. That's a good point to bring up.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that reminds me also of, actually, Star Trek did the same thing with Trip in Star Trek Enterprise,
who was actually probably my favorite character from that series.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, to give a guy a Southern drawl and, you know, have him in charge of engineering and that he's, you know, fucking genius, like, great. That's something that needs to be. So pleased with that. But yeah, so Eli Vanto, that was nice. Learning more. I mean, again, this book really did, unlike many novels, most novels, boy, especially Alphabet Squadron, don't really expand like our knowledge of Star Wars or of the Star Wars universe and the galaxy itself in general, especially in universe. But this did that. So I mean, I thought it was a good book. I mean, what do you want to say in closing?
I mean, yeah, I definitely agree that it expanded, you know, the universe a little bit more than the past, you know, Disney Star Wars novels has been. I still don't think it has had sort of like the massive, you know, galaxy-wide consequences that happened, say, in the first Thrawn trilogy in, you know, the Legends, you know, universe.
Right.
But you know, maybe eventually we'll work up to that, because, you know, we're coming to a time where the Star Wars trilogy movies are coming to an end. So yeah, maybe that will give, you know, people in other realms to have more freedom to do stuff in the Star Wars universe that they seemingly have been keeping a tight rein on ever since Disney took over.
Yeah, I think it's important to bring up at this point the interview, which is one of the few great things or interesting things that the Star Wars show has done as late. And they did do an interview with Timothy Zahn about the book, and he says he's willing to write more, and he has places where he thinks that the character of Thrawn has gone, but he said ultimately that's up to Dave Filoni.
Right.
And that's for him to do.
Right.
And he, to his credit, he also said he trusts Dave Filoni with whatever he wants to do with the character.
I mean, that's not the worst person to have, for Thrawn's hands to be in,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. So anyway, I mean, we'll see. I don't know if we're going to get any more Thrawn books, but basically right now it seems like if we're going to get any more Thrawn, it's going to be under Filoni's hat. And, maybe it'll be a new cartoon, TV show, who knows?
Right.
I'll take any of that, quite frankly.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree with you, though. This is not even though I'm glad out of this Thrawn trilogy, Thrawn is still alive, it's not as strong a Thrawn trilogy as we had in the original expanded universe.
Oh, no, Overall, nowhere even close, I would say.
No, I would agree. Not even close to Heir of the Empire or Last Command or any of that.
So I'm just curious, now that we've closed out this Thrawn trilogy, how would you rank the 3 books in this one?
Like all together?
No, like I know the first one was your favorite, and I agree. But where do you put 2 and 3? I mean, like, is 2 your number 2, and 3 like is the third one the weakest one?
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, okay, I agree.
I imagine you'd agree. Yeah. I mean, and it didn't have any of the real humor to it. Like, it was missing a lot of what the second book had going for it.
Right.
And, amazingly, I mean, with the second book, like Darth Vader usually owns the stage when he comes on, whatever it is, comic book, movie, you name it. And Darth Vader wasn't the most interesting character in that book. And that says a lot about that book. About it was Alliances, I think was the name of it. Really, Anakin and Thrawn were the showstoppers in that book, and they were great. And so,
in fact, I remember talking about that during our review and saying, there were. It got to a point about like halfway through the novel where Vader's, irritants with Thrawn kind of got a little tedious.
Yeah. I mean, he almost seemed neutered. It was. No, I didn't. Yeah, that was one of the book's like actual weak points.
Right.
I thought. So yeah, this is not, again, I mean, the thing that would have made this book, would have taken it towards like being great, is if we got more of that Art of War style commentary from Thrawn, and we just
if we got more Palpatine.
Yes, because I was really expecting a lot more Emperor. Like all the previews for this book had the Emperor in it and everything. Yeah. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
We do know he wanted to have a conversation with him though before he ended up wherever he ended up there after Rebels. But which that would have been interesting to see what that would have been all about. But anyway,
and I will give credit to Timothy Zahn in this point at least, because it is difficult to, finish out an entire trilogy of books with an ending that really you didn't even write. Yeah. Because we knew where all this was heading.
Right.
Because, the timeline is very clear. This takes place just before, the show Rebels finishes and Thrawn is, gone.
Yes.
So we like I said, we know where this was all heading. So, I mean, it is I appreciate that he had a difficult job.
Yeah. He did. But it I don't know, it's still a worthy adventure, and just to get a lot more about the Chiss Ascendancy, even if it isn't what I wanted, like that was nice too. And to have Thrawn interact with some of his own people, that I think we were all waiting for that. So that needed to happen. And he made it work.
And so despite all of my criticism of this book, I still recommend it. Like if you're going to read a Star Wars book this month, probably pass Alphabet and pick up Thrawn Treason. It's definitely worth your time.
Yep, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. That's about the best thing we can say with any of these books, frankly. So, is it worth reading? Yes. Okay. All right. Good. I'll read it. I almost want to get it. Like, I almost want to turn that in. I kind of want to save it for like a question of the month or something. Like, in the new canon, has there been like a book that's actually great literature? I can't
Lost
really
Stars.
I don't know if it's like great literature though. Like it was great, but I don't know that it stands on its own feet, you know?
I thought it was, maybe I'm just like looking back with, you know, nostalgia glass at this point, but I really just, I hold that book in such high regard. It took Star Wars fiction to places it had never been before.
Yes, it did.
It was a very daring book. It was a great, you know, romantic story in its own right, even if it wasn't the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. Well, if any of them are, I agree with you. I think that's probably the closest one, you know, to being like actual great literature on its own. Yeah, because, you know, I'm thinking about it like with Star Trek, and I even have a hard time thinking of a Star Trek book that could really stand on its own as great literature. Other than like maybe like Prime Directive or something like that. But yeah, I hear that. What do you got? I think Rob's grinning.
I was just looking over at my shelf of Star Trek books and going, yeah, he's right.
yeah, it's tough to think of one of those that are like great literature too. Yeah, no, I hear it. So, well, anyway, so we got, you know, one stinker, but we got one that, yeah, I think everybody should be picking up and reading. Read the whole Thrawn trilogy. It really is worthwhile. All right, so let's shift it up here. We'll get away from, well, not exactly getting away from a review. I kind of have these out of order, but I want to talk about the Sith Trooper. The Sith Trooper was first announced. It was announced at San Diego Comic-Con this year, 2019, but it was also initially talked about on the Star Wars show. And I mean, it's basically a red First Order Stormtrooper is really what this basically looks like. A lot of the fandom, and this is a character, or it's a character or a character design that's going to be in Episode 9 of Star Wars. A lot of fandom was complaining, saying, no, we already have Sith Troopers. We know what they're supposed to look like, and they're from the old EU. I think those are just a bunch of people who just don't like Disney having the reins and restarting the canon and all that. I don't think.
Come on. That was. Not only was that from the EU, but even within the EU, that was like from thousands of years ago.
Yeah, it's like Old Republic shit.
Yeah, like old Republic. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's not even worth like. I mean, those are just assholes complaining.
Right.
You know that's not a worthwhile critique in my opinion. But I mean, what do you think of these guys? We saw them on that poster that actually like promo art for Chef Boyardee or something that got leaked back in April.
Right. But at the time, they just looked like red, just a red paint job on the same Stormtrooper armor for the First Order Stormtroopers.
Exactly, right.
But this is actually a new design altogether. And I actually think it's really cool looking. One of the things I really love about it is the kind of callback they did on the helmet to the Clone Trooper armor.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of nice flares on it that I think.
Yeah, and I love the lines on it all throughout the armor. I think that's you look up close at it and it really works.
Yeah. No, I thought it was a really cool design. I mean, the biggest point out of it for me is actually just in the name. I mean, the design is great too. I don't mind it. I'm excited. I don't just mind it. I'm excited to see it on the screen. But I love the fact that, we're getting back into the Sith. Like there's no questions about this. You got a Sith Trooper, that means there's Sith around, and whatever that's going to be, if it's Palpatine or something Kylo's doing or Knights of Ren or what, I'm excited. I mean, this is definitely one of the more interesting pieces of news and legitimate ones to come out about Episode 9. Any other thoughts on this one, Rob?
No, because I mean, like it does lead to a lot of speculation, and we don't really do that on this show as much because play the same kind of bullshit games that Screen Rant does.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do. I think it'll be interesting to see how they fit into the First Order, if they fit into the First Order at all.
Right.
It kind of would lead to the question of whether or not Sith Troopers are even part of that organization, or if they were something completely separate.
Yeah, because we do know. I mean, also we already have some kind of, or it sounds like we have another organization called the Allegiant, right? Because
I thought that was
or is that a ship?
No, that's a rank.
It's a rank. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
All right.
because
Well,
one
I'm
of the
glad that we brought
characters.
that up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least I think it is.
Yeah, because there was the picture of that. What's Grant? What's his name?
Legion General something.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, I just got the impression that was a rank sort of kind of like, Vice Admiral,
Oh, see, I was under the impression that it was like some kind of other organization.
I could be wrong. You could be right, and I could be totally wrong. But yeah, that's the impression that I got. That it was just a title.
I know we do have a comic book, like a miniseries coming up called Allegiance, and I think it has to do with Kylo Ren or something. But
okay,
I don't know if that's going to have any tie-in or what. But regardless, yeah, I think the name alone. I mean, it should excite people alone that we're getting Sith, and then that's really enough to take out of it. But yeah, plenty of speculation to get into with it. Of course, are they working for Palpatine? What's the score with that? I mean, yeah, there's a lot that people could go into with it. Anything else on this one?
Nope.
Right on. So I want to have. I want to get into a little bit of a conversation again. Where we first heard about this was on the Star Wars show, which is hosted by what's his name, Carbone.
Yeah, Anthony Carbone.
Anthony Carbone and Andy Gutierrez.
Right.
Who I love. Andy Gutierrez.
She's a sweetheart. I met her at the Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim years back, and yeah, she is just as sweet and nice as she seems, on screen.
Yeah, so, just seems like such a fun person, and
yeah, I absolutely.
Yeah, I love her. I think she's wonderful. But when we did a critique of the Star Wars show a few months back, where we're just like, are we getting like anything even really useful out of this? I've been watching the past few episodes, and there were a couple of interviews. Like there was the interview with Alexander Freed, which was enlightening. Mm-hmm. There was the interview with Timothy Zahn that we've been talking about throughout this episode. Both of those, though, you could tell are heavily truncated, heavily edited. Right. There's probably a shit ton more said. And in fact, they used to do a Star Wars show. They also had like this Verizon after hour or something.
Right.
Where they give you like a 50-minute interview, like with Dennis Muir.
Or Dave Filoni. Yeah, I remember when they did the one with Dave Filoni, we got the full interview, and that was so nice.
Right.
And honestly, like the interviews is like pretty much the main reason why I watched the Star Wars show at this point.
Yeah, that and like the opening minute, and it's barely a minute of news, of reveals, things coming out and all of this. That's about all that's really worthwhile. The rest of it, and it's, I made a tweet about it just recently. I want to read the tweet. And so here it is. It says, I think Andy, of course, Andy Gutierrez, I think Andy is a wonderful human being. And Rebels Recon was a fun and very informative show, which she also hosted. But fuck, the Star Wars show is so pop pandering. Is it even about Star Wars? Could we get an official show for hardcore Star Wars fans that have an attention span and intellect? And that's what I said about it, because I think I just like when I wrote that tweet, I think I was even responding to just the title of one of the episodes where the title was "We Combed Kylo Ren's Hair," and I'm just like, well, what the hell is this? And then it was also in response to, again, I think Andy's great, but she was talking about, I was like, I don't know, somebody from the Foo Fighters was on there, and I couldn't fucking care less about that. And I'm just like, what does that have to do with Star Wars? In fact, if anything, that brings up bad memories for me, because, and we talked about this in the last TIE Fighter Renegades, where that dumbass band Save Ferris made that dumbass comment that A New Hope is like the only Star Wars movie worthwhile or anything. And also there was another episode where they had Charlie Bliss, I think was the name of the band. Mm-hmm. And they had the lead singer there, and she's saying, and they asked her like, oh, what's your favorite Star Wars movie? She's like, oh, The Last Jedi. No Star Wars fan says The Last Jedi. Right. Like, that's not even remotely possible. Like that is literally humanly not possible for The Last Jedi to be your favorite Star Wars movie. You're an outright liar, or something. I don't know what the fuck. Or like the other guy was talking about.
And that's the thing with it. It's like, like it's, I don't have anything bad to say with either Andy or Anthony, but I do get a feeling at times that what they're reading feels forced.
No pun intended.
Yeah. And there's a degree of sincerity lacking in the show right now. And it's been going on for a while. I'll be honest with you, when I first noticed it is when they started doing Target ads for, you know, the when they did those, they would release a bunch of toys before a movie came out, and they were running like full on, you know, 2-3 minute ads that they were, you know, narrating or whatnot for Target.
Yeah.
And it just it felt so forced and insincere, and like, you know, like they're just doing their job. They're there to earn a paycheck. Yeah. And that's not the feeling I want to get, you know, from a Star Wars show. Yeah.
It feels disgustingly corporate, like many things that have been produced for the Star Wars YouTube channel.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and that's basically what I'm getting to is like, it feels very corporate. It feels like, you know, that they're just little cogs in this great machine of Disney. And, you know, I get it. I mean, it's not an easy job. And no shade on Anthony or Andy at all. Yeah. But the people writing the show, there's some heavy criticism to lay against, you know, the way this show is produced and written.
Yeah. And I mean, because I want a show like this. I want a show, and it can be officially from Disney, that gives me the fucking news, that tells me what's going on, that gives me interviews and everything. But this ain't it. I mean, and it's like Rebels Recon was such the right way to go. And now I can understand, because anybody can look at this. Look at the viewer numbers on YouTube for Rebels Recon, and it's horrible. Like, compared to the millions of people that will watch a Star Wars trailer, I mean, you're lucky if you're getting into 6 digits with episodes of Rebels Recon.
It's so sad.
It is, because you can't even, like, I mean, there's a positive and negative to this, but you can't even fully understand an episode of Rebels without watching Rebels Recon, because like so many times they went into such depth. All the animators, the voice actors, Filoni, everybody, and Pablo, all of them would go so deep on what was going on in the episode that there was shit I didn't notice, but now I know, and it's great, and I like that. It's like getting a director's commentary.
Well,
you know?
Well, not only that, it's just like you could really feel the enthusiasm for everybody involved in Recon.
Yeah,
whereas you don't get that from the Star Wars show. And not only that, I mean, like, and I think that a big point that highlights, like, a lot of the humor in the Star Wars show is so deadpan.
Yeah, and it almost, you know, after you mentioned it, I can kind of see, thinking back on it, I can kind of see where it almost seems like Andy and Anthony are almost making fun of, like, themselves, or making like they know the show's ridiculous, and so they're just. It's so, but what the fuck? I mean, because, I mean, I guess that's it. Like with Rebels Recon, the numbers just aren't in that there is any interest in, like, a really deep.
But was that a failure of the content, or a failure of, you know, marketing, or however they got the show out? You know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know.
And I could be wrong, but I mean, there could be some YouTube funny business involved in that too, because you know, the time that Rebels Recon was out was back when YouTube was like messing with the algorithm that you know, delivered content big time and just constantly. I mean, it was a terrible algorithm. It's still not good now, but it's better than it was back then.
No, that is a very good point to bring up, that Disney shouldn't even be counting on those numbers. I got 2 points I want to bring up. One is that maybe we'll end up getting the show that I want, or that we want, on Disney Plus, and they just don't want to give it to YouTube. I don't know. And I hope so. But the other point I kind of want to bring up is where I want to go with this. I'm watching it, and it doesn't, nothing about it feels right. And there's kind of a direction I want to go with this, but I really want to be like a bit trepidatious with it. But, well, I guess something I will say is that they're bringing in, like I said, it was pop pandering.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they're bringing people on that hopefully, is it meant to, like, bringing these like band members on or these other celebrities, is it that aren't even in Star Wars? Is it meant to like attract more people to watch Star Wars? I mean, I can't believe.
I think so.
Yeah, I can't believe, how do you get more people to watch Star Wars? Everybody sees Star Wars. I mean, It's the biggest film franchise ever. Like it's the number one film franchise. The only two underneath it are Marvel, which they come out with 3 movies a year, so how do you top that? And Fast and the Furious. Like, if you're beating those out, who else are you going to get? I don't.
Yeah, but I mean, YouTube is such a funny thing. I mean, like, I'll be straight up and put it. I am totally out of touch with the generation of people that watch YouTube every day.
Sure, same.
Because I look at the content on that, and every once in a while, and I look at the what's trending and whatnot, and all this stuff. I don't get it.
Yeah,
but apparently it's what's popular. So I assume that's the demographic they're trying to appeal to. So I don't know how to criticize this because I don't understand these people.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and I guess I don't really either. But again, I can't believe like that you can't, Star Wars can't be any bigger. Like, you can't draw more people in. I just don't think that that's possible.
Right.
You can have all this there ready for when the next generation is, popping out of wombs,
right?
But that's all you can do.
But not only that, it's like, why can't Star Wars at least have, 1 or 2 prestige projects where they don't care what the numbers are?
Yeah.
But why can't the Star Wars show be that? Why can't, why can't you just put it out just for the diehards like you and me?
Mm-hmm.
If there's only 6,000 of us, then so be it. Just let it be out there. And here again, let it exist for posterity.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you completely on that. And it's a shame that they don't. Hollywood is totally lost. I mean, part of it is the lie of big data, which if people want to hear more about that, go listen to my other show, Sovryn Tech. Like that big data tells some kind of truth or has any meaning beyond the literal second in which that data was collected. It might have none, and so Hollywood just really runs off of, you got to get all the, it's either 10 billion or whatever. It's either 100 million people that you get, or it's not worthwhile. And that's sad, that we're to that point. It's not about the art,
Right.
But anyway,
but that's what Star Wars needs. It needs, projects that are just about the art.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I agree.
And done for art's sake.
Yeah. I don't know if we're ever going to get that, but I don't know. Maybe Star Wars Plus can make that worthwhile because
then
it's all on their own servers.
We are getting, new Clone Wars episodes, and I definitely put that in that category.
That's true. Yeah. That's something to please the fans because it's a, restart or whatever.
Yes. And yes, that show is art.
Yes.
By any measurable metric.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a gorgeous show. It always was. I mean, and just look at it and find me something else that even looks like it. And there just isn't.
Yeah. Well, not even just on the visual level, but, on an acting, storytelling, sound design, music. I mean, it is pure art.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I can't even think of another show where the main character, which arguably, Anakin, you love the voice actor more than the actor that hit him in live action.
Yep.
With all due respect to Hayden. I mean, that's just incredible. I agree with you. So, well, anyway, I just wanted to get that out there that, like, I want this show. I want, like, this hardcore Star Wars show from Disney that's giving me the news, that's giving me the interviews, that's breaking this shit down. And the Star Wars show it doesn't feel like it's for Star Wars fans at all. And again, I argue, who else are you going to get? If somebody doesn't like Star Wars now, they're never going to like Star Wars. There's no way you're going to convince them, and you can see with The Last Jedi just how much you drop the ball when you piss off the fans that much. how that really puts you in limbo, and you have, or if you make something pointless like Solo, you can't just, you got to please the fans.
I mean, apparently there are people out there who for them Solo is their favorite movie too, which is hard for you to imagine. I'm not going to go as far as you to say that that's impossible, but it's hard to swallow. It really is.
Yeah,
but here again, as disconnected as I feel from the people who, like I said, watch YouTube on a daily basis and are consuming all of this, content that's, on the trending page.
Yeah,
it's not for me. That's quite clear.
Yeah. No, and same. I mean, there's a couple people I watch on there pretty regularly, but literally, like I don't even go to YouTube. I just have like those bookmarks saved.
Right. Yeah. I have a couple. Yeah, I have a couple of things that I watch too, but they're certainly not very popular either.
No, they're not trending. Yeah. No. And if they were, I'd be worried about myself. God damn it. Right. I'd be like, wait a minute. I'm into something that's trending. This isn't right. It's like the old Mark Twain quote: when you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. But regardless, I just wanted to get that out there. That, again, we love Andy and Anthony. I mean, really do. But fucking change this up. I don't know.
That's good. This is going to be my final comment on it.
Yeah.
Create content that's worthy of Andy and Anthony's talents.
Oh, yes.
That's all you really need to do.
Yeah. And I do want to say,
because they're not using their full potential. We got Andy's potential on Rebels Recon. I mean, and her enthusiasm for that show was genuine, and it showed in every episode.
Oh, it opened right up with her, like she was just grinning ear to ear, walking down the hallway. Yeah. I mean, you were like excited.
Yeah, and sometimes you see a little bit that old Andy in the interviews on the Star Wars show, but that's about it. The scripted stuff, it's pure shit.
Yeah, and I do just want to say quick, because your point about we're not the YouTube audience and all that is very sound, but because somebody might say, well, that's because the Star Wars show is meant for people between the ages of like 9 and 19 or something.
Right?
No way is it meant for that, because you can't like even recent episodes where they're showing off all the merchandise that they're selling. We're talking about like full-on replicas that cost $2,000 to $10,000. That they're schlepping on that show.
Yeah.
There's no 9-year-old buying that. And there's no parents that are going to buy that.
Well, it's a great point. Like the way they ended the last episode was they made a referential joke about don't copy that floppy.
Oh, and
Andy even made the comment, it's like, how many of people in our audience are even going to understand that joke?
Yeah, right. Which is from,
here again, it's like, they're poking fun at themselves because they know the people that know that reference and understand it. People who are actually Star Wars fans, are going to get it, but they're not the ones watching their show.
No, right. I mean, and they're even referencing like that very certain, age group that would even remember, that show from, PBS. Like it's just not.
Yeah. You know what? I would very much venture to guess that perhaps Andy and Anthony feel as disconnected from their audience as we do.
I'd love to hear it from them.
Yeah, I know, but they can't. They can't.
I know, but it'd be so great to hear Andy say, it's like, look, Stallion, we know. Right? That'd be so nice, and I mean, it'd be fuck. I don't know. Yeah, because there's got to be a ton of Star Wars fans that have actually watched the Computer Chronicles, but again, they're not watching the Star Wars show, and that's where that don't copy that floppy's from. But anyway, fucking A. All right. So that's all I got for that. I think we can wrap that conversation up. It's such a weird ass thing. And I really want more. And I certainly want more from them. And that's a great point, that their talents are clearly being wasted. So, all right, well, let's move on from that. Let's get into, just one last bit of news, and then we'll get into, I think, our fan production of the month, and we'll wrap things up here. We still have, at some point, we're going to have Rob tell a story about how he got kicked off of Reddit because they had to do with Star Wars. But we'll get into that rebelliousness in the future. So, but something that, and this is something else that, I'm kind of glad, and at the same time, I'm also kind of pissed off about this. So on August 20th of this year, 2019, Star Wars Resistance, the first season of that, speaking of kids shows, is going to be coming out on DVD. There's going to be all 21 episodes are going to be there. There's going to be a ton, actually a fair amount of bonus features. There's going to be audio commentaries. They're going to have all of the little short episodes that were released on YouTube that we talked about. All of the Resistance Rewind episodes from YouTube are going to be on there as well. It's a very nice, complete collection for season 1. And of course, we know we're getting season 2 here very soon. I mean, Rob, like we talked about Star Wars Resistance. What did you think of the show, just very quickly? Season 1.
It was a bit of a shaky start. You know,
Yeah.
It was we talked a lot about
Wanting more aces,
right? More aces, and how the way the show was advertised before it started, it felt like it was kind of a bait and switch.
Yeah. But I mean, a worthwhile show. Like, I mean, I mean, definitely the way they ended the last season has a lot of potential for some really interesting stuff to happen. Yeah, absolutely. The reason I'm talking about this, I mean, I'm going to get my hands on this. You can't pre-order it yet or anything. Otherwise, I would have already. But I will pick this up. And because I'm kind of into hard copy like that these days. But I'm kind of, and Rob, I guess I have a question for you. I mean, why do you think this isn't coming out on Blu-ray? I know that sounds stupid to some people, but like DVD is supposedly a dead format.
Right.
I'm trying to understand like why this isn't like it's getting put out on DVD, but it's not getting put on Blu-ray. Are they just expecting that it's not going to sell well?
I think so.
Okay. Who are they expecting to buy this, though? Like, I mean, if you're putting audio commentaries on it, you're not expecting 7-year-olds to buy it, which is supposedly or what was initially seeming to be kind of maybe the target audience, or at one point that was the case. Then you get the creators or producers on the show who would say, no, this is really meant for everybody and all this. But it seems there's a confusing message here in that, it's only coming out on DVD, but it's getting released for the diehards, but the diehards probably want it on Blu-ray or 4K or something. Like I'm just kind of confused by it coming out on DVD. I mean, do you have any thoughts?
I'm not surprised that this is happening, because I kind of saw it coming in a way, because if you were like me and you were downloading the episodes from the public library, it got really hard at some points to find the 1080p versions of this show.
Right.
It got to the point where the standard definition was the most common one, and if you were lucky, you got a 720p recording.
Yeah.
So and that way. That kind of tells you a little bit, I think, about how popular the show was, because the more popular the show is, the more drive there is out there in the scene to have competition and be the first to release the high def
the high
quality
resolution versions.
Yeah, right. So that in that way, and so I kind of see this as Disney hedging its bets. They still want to try to get some of those, because I think DVD still makes money. People call it a dead format, but I think it still makes money.
Yeah, no, it's really not a dead format. That's a misnomer. That's like Netflix people. That's Netflix cultists telling you that. Yeah.
Right. I'm more than likely what I see happening is if the next season picks up in popularity, maybe we'll get a Blu-ray release
of a complete series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm hoping. I mean, I'll pick this up, but I thought it was strange, and I didn't think it actually it just feels like it doesn't bode well, like that the show just didn't do well, because there's not
like
a confidence that it'll sell.
It is kind of, like I said, it's kind of Disney playing their hand, that they're hedging their bets with this one. I mean, I realize it's probably a minuscule amount of money, but it probably is a lot cheaper to produce DVDs than it is Blu-rays.
Sure.
Yeah. So they're I guess they're just not seeing it being worthwhile putting this out on Blu-ray yet, and they're waiting for it to pick up in popularity. And maybe if it doesn't pick you up in popularity, this might end up becoming a collector's item.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a great point. I mean, it's a good looking collection. It's got all the stuff that it should have. You know, this is very comprehensive. I'm pleased with what I see. I'm just kind of stunned that you're not getting it in, you know, everybody's supposed to have an 8 or 8K or 10K TV by now. And it's just, it's fucking strange that it's only going to come out on DVD. I don't get it.
Right.
But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, let people know that it's coming, and I will be picking it up and doing a review of it, even though everything on there, minus the commentaries, I've seen. Even that little show that they did that we weren't impressed by, because it wasn't remotely as good as Rebels Recon, is on there. Was a Resistance Rewind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bringing up little facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, we can shift up from that and we can get into something that's being done by the fans that I think is really, really slick. And I want one of these projects to finally have like a full on, to go golden, to have a full release, fully playable, done and out there. But this is our fan production a month, and this one is one of my picks, and it is a HD. Anyway, you had a group of guys. They're working with Unreal 4 using the Unreal 4 engine, and they're making a version of. They're kind of remaking Star Wars Rogue Squadron, which is one of the best Star Wars games of all time, easily. And it looks absolutely gorgeous, and it looks like it would play so well today, and that people would just jump right on it. And you can kind of get a look at it. There's a link in the show notes for it, and it just highlights something that we were kind of talking about earlier. Why the fuck isn't EA making a game like this? Because this looks great,
right?
And very exciting. Go ahead.
This kind of project would be perfect for the Switch too.
Fuck yes.
Remake all the Rogue Squadron games and put them on the Switch. I mean, people would be throwing their money at the screen.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually, not long ago, I ordered a GameCube for the very reason that, God damn it, I want to play the Rogue Squadron games again.
Right.
You know, I mean, fortunately, you can get those on the cheap these days, but fucking A, because you can't even emulate those. That people got to understand, you can't even emulate some of those Rogue Squadron games. You can get the PC version of the original Rogue Squadron that was also on N64.
I thought the newest versions of Dolphin, they had actually fixed the issues.
Did they?
Yeah, I think so.
Then there we go. But that's news to me. But regardless, I mean, I'd love to have it on the Switch.
Yeah.
Especially with the Switch Lite coming out. I mean, imagine playing portable Rogue Squadron. Fuck yes.
Yeah. Because for a long time there was some like unique technology in the Rogue Squadron games, particularly the 2 sequels, that they just couldn't get working on emulator, and they eventually fixed it. Because it was nigh unplayable, and now it's in a playable state.
Yeah.
It's not perfect emulation, but it's in a playable state.
Okay. All right. Well, fantastic. I mean, because those games are totally worthwhile. And it does. And even the article that I share in the links in the show notes for this episode is from Kotaku talking about it. And even they are saying, you know, and they have to be kind of EA cheerleaders at points. Even they're saying, how is there not money in just doing these little short-term remasters, you know, on EA's part to get these out there? And it doesn't make any sense why they're not, unless EA is just afraid that if they did remaster one of these games, people would realize, wow, EA makes shitty games these days, you know, compared to what came before.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes sense, because this would be such an easy cash grab, and I would totally buy. I don't get it. But anyway, the team that's working on this, it looks fantastic.
I just hope that they're able to, get it to completion before the C&D comes down.
Yeah, damn right. Yeah, good point. So, because we know, like other games, like X-Wing Alliance and others have also have HD remasters that have been worked on by independent teams,
right?
Which credit to them, and go for it, baby. I mean, I think it's great.
Right. Well, and there's still the X-Wing remake that's being worked on that I'm still in the beta on. So they're still making progress on that. Thankfully, they kind of like went dark a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
And stopped, releasing news about it. So it's kind of like in some secret Facebook groups and whatnot.
Yeah, just to avoid, the hammer coming down.
Right. Because you remember what happened with the Old Republic remake. That got hit pretty hard. Yeah. Oh man. Well, anyway, we'll see how any of these goes, and we'll certainly keep an eye on them. But I loved the look of this remake. I thought it was stunning. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and just really made me want more Rogue Squadron in any way, shape, or form. Remasters, Rogue Squadron 4, whatever, I'd take it. All right, well, anyway, let's wrap this one up then. Let's get to our question of the month, which is the final segment of the show where either Rob or I propose a question about Star Wars and see what we think about this. And I think Rob's going to have some strong opinions about this fucker. Because it's funny, like this question just struck me, and you know what it was? It was an Alphabet Squadron where I thought that this character was getting hinted at. Because there's a point where like they're playing, the Alphabet Squadron's playing this game of who, where, when, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, how are they going to die? And so you ask who, where, when. Right. And someone said it's going to be like this Imperial female admiral. And it almost sounded like they were saying she was like riding some super weapon and took Coruscant. And I'm like, wait, that's Admiral Daala.
Right.
She was introduced in the Jedi Academy trilogy by he who shall not be named. We'll just say KJA, and even that's too much. But of course, we're talking about Kevin J. Anderson. We could say it, but we are not fans. Yeah. Right. Well, did you get the Anya there? Bless you. But we are not fans of Kevin J. Anderson here.
I'm not gifting him with the water of my body either.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go.
That's too much praise for him.
Yeah, not at all. Little Dune reference there. All right. So anyway, the question that I posited was, should they being Disney and whoever's involved, should they bring back Admiral Daala and I put in parens, and he who shall not be named, of course, that being KJA. Because just like they brought back Zahn to write Thrawn, you'd think, would they bring back KJA to write Admiral Daala? Rob, I'll just put it to you. Talk about both of them. And I think we can separate the creation from the creator, as far as Daala goes, but go for it.
I'm okay with them bringing the character back, but be honest with you, as much as I dislike Kevin J. Anderson, there's another Star Wars project of his that I would much rather they bring back.
Interesting.
And that being Tales of the Jedi.
Oh,
which was the precursor to the Old Republic. Because most people don't remember this, but there was actually, they did Star Wars timeline that pre-existed the Old Republic.
Right.
And went into like the ancient origins of both the Jedi and the Sith. And that was about the only project that Kevin J. Anderson was ever involved with that I had, and I think it had largely to do with that he co-wrote it and he wasn't just writing it on his own.
Right.
But yeah, that was a good comic book series. So I'm not opposed to Admiral Daala come back, but I would rather see Tales of the Jedi first.
Sure. Yeah. I don't need a remake of the Jedi Academy trilogy.
Right. Because and super weapon stories are really played out at this point.
Yeah, because you get the prototype Death Star in that.
Right. And the Sun Crusher is what I was thinking of.
Yeah, and that would be, both of those would be way too much. Even one of them would be way too much.
Right. They were almost too much back then.
Yeah. Now, the Maw, which is where there was the secret facility where the Death Star was getting built, that is part of canon. I don't know if the Death Star getting built there might not be, but the Maw itself is canon, of course, in Solo and other. And
I think you got hints of that in Alphabet Squadron 2 as well as Solo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so parts of the Jedi Academy trilogy are already in the new canon. The first book of that was a Jedi Apprentice or something. I forget the title.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I
actually really liked the first book. Just the trilogy didn't round it out. It didn't do. And the character of Admiral Daala, I don't know. I thought she was. I remember for a very long time thinking she was like the sexiest shit in Star Wars. I love the fact that she was kind of like Grand Moff Tarkin's, secret lover. That was nice. And the fact that she was like running this facility and everything, and she just came in as a total badass. You can't follow up an act like Thrawn, which the events of that series took place after the original Thrawn trilogy. But I would love to have Admiral Daala back. I don't think I kind of feel like Admiral Sloan could just as easily fill those shoes, but I don't know. I'm game for it.
But here, okay, so I'll put the question to you another way.
Okay.
Would you rather have Admiral Daala back or Exar Kun?
Ouch. Yeah, no, you're right. I take Exar Kun. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, totally. I love Exar Kun. Such a great character that made a villain that made sense,
right?
And was totally believable. And I mean, really did some villainous shit. Yeah, no, you're right. I would take that beforehand. As far as bringing KJA back, no, and I don't think he ever will. I think he would ask for too much money. I think he would ask for stupid amounts of money that they wouldn't pay him, and his name's not worth it. He's not Timothy.
No. I'm sure he thinks he is, but
yeah, if they wanted to bring back Michael Stackpole and some of those authors, I think they would do just fine and dandy in the new canon. But Alexander Freed, I think, does really, no offense to Michael Stackpole, I'm a fan, but Alexander Freed does as fine a job as Michael Stackpole did. Michael Stackpole just had better characters to work with, I think, back in the day with Wraith Squadron and Rogue Squadron and so on. Yeah, I wouldn't. I think Kevin J. Anderson. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't bring him on. I don't think there's any point.
I mean, outside of people like James Luceno, I think it's best that they continue just to distance themselves from the EU as much as possible. And I think he's one of the few that has. Is he the only one that's made the crossover?
Luceno?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Because like Max Allen Collins or any of that, I don't think any of them have come on.
Yeah. So I mean, and no shade to any of the people that worked on some of this. There are some good books in there, and there's some truly terrible ones too.
Oh yeah.
I think with the tack they're going with the Star Wars novels these days, it's best to bring in fresh blood. So it really doesn't even make sense to bring Kevin J. Anderson back.
Yeah, no, I mean, James Luceno and Timothy Zahn. I mean, that's enough. I mean, you have you have Claudia Gray. What do you want?
Right? Yeah.
Just have her fucking write everything. I mean, you should be employing her for life. So yeah, but I mean, as far as bringing in Admiral Daala, it's not necessary. But I think while we have gotten more female characters on screen, certainly, I don't think we've gotten enough female Imperials. Especially ones in command positions. I'd really like to see that. And I thought it was cool that she was much younger and that she was effectively a trainee, or, she was under tutelage of Tarkin. And so I think that makes her a compelling character to bring back. And so I would like to see her come back. In fact, honestly, I think, and I know this is going to shock some people, I'd like to see her back more than I'd like to see Mara Jade. Because I don't know where Mara Jade would fit in with things right now.
No, I don't think she would fit in. In fact, I don't think. Honestly, I don't think there's any way for them to bring that character into the new Star Wars canon and make it sense and do any kind of justice to that character.
Right. Oh, oh fuck. Here's what I want: Daala and Dr. Aphra relationship.
Oh wow,
that would be nice.
Damn.
I mean, because they're both twisted weapon specialists. That would be so cool. I could see stories go with that. I'm going to have to tweet at Disney and let them know. Because that needs to happen. That'd be phenomenal. I would be so on board with that. So anyway, anything else on that one, Rob?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Well, let's wrap this baby up. Of course, we started this off with how did we feel about Star Wars? And I think at the end of it, we still feel the same here at the end of TIE Fighter Renegades that, we need something. We need something good.
We need more. Yeah,
we need more. We need something to really, really, really whet our appetites until Disney Plus and Episode 9 drop in the coming months. But, we'll see what happens. And we'll certainly be here to cover all of it on TIE Fighter Renegades. Rob, as always, one of my favorite times of the month, baby. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. And we'll wrap this one up, and we'll see all of you on the other side. TIE Fighter Renegades signing off.